think about the headlines this morning when you send them across at WhatsApp message to 0809-444-0981. But now let's meet the analyst this morning. I'd like to make welcome Lakunle Yusuf. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Omas. Good morning, Devoe. Good morning, everyone listening to us everywhere where you are.
Well, it certainly looks like a fine November morning from your good morning. So I want to say good morning to Devoe Okorie this morning. And would it be a good morning November to you?
Yes, it's fantastic. 1 month to the year, and they're cool. Does your government love women?
Okay, so with that said, let's get you into the newspaper headlines this morning. As we begin with Yusuf this morning, Lakunle now would get us into. Let's go. Lakunle will get us into it, and that's what the paper has been looking at him this morning. So he would pick up this paper for us this morning, even though I know the boys are saying, what's happening? Well, that's it. So let's get into where, how, no, that is, please, it's the papers that switch in a way. Lagos, that's what it is. So it isn't. We have to quickly clear that out. So the Vanguard newspaper is what we're staring at this morning, and we'd like to get Lakunle to get us off start with this one. It says, the police declare war against kidnappers and others in Lagos. So from this story, it seemed like this story, it's getting too close to home because Lagos is home for us. And what is happening? How did we get here?
Okay, so this story suggests to me that apparently it's a category of business people in the hospitality industry, according to the police, around a specific area in Lagos, that's the Okota axis of Lagos, are being targeted. The spokesperson of the police then says, now because the criminals are comfortable doing it there unchallenged, they are now spreading to other places in Lagos, and that they are working hard to ensure that they curb it in the first instance. Okay, so my first thoughts would be then that why did we, if we knew, why did we wait till it started to spread to that place before we are declaring this war on the crimes? I thought the first job of the police is to prevent crime. Then if the places where they cannot prevent, they arrest the criminals. Now we are announcing to the criminals that we are coming for you. Does that not give them notification to change their style or to go underground for a while when the police reacts and they come back? The other bit of it then it says that when they check their statistics at the end of every month, crime in Lagos is reducing. And I ask myself, is it because people are not reporting that you think that crime is reducing? It says that police are all over the place on the road. Yes, occasionally you see them. Some places, I can say like 2-3 places I know that I pass regularly in this Lagos today, where all you see is, for example, you see a police vehicle that is obviously abandoned there, but there's no policemen around it, like 2-3 places. Yes, the Lagos State government has done a lot in assisting the police in Lagos. The Lagos State Security Trust Fund, I know that they've done a lot in terms of equipment, in terms of financing the police to help them challenge these things. The Lagos State government also needs to help us with the lighting up of our streets, particularly at night. When that is done, some of these crimes are committed at night, and because the roads are dark, that's why they're able to get away with this. Then the next thing to then worry about then is the number of people in our police, the personnel. There are 20 million people in Lagos. What is the number of the police personnel that are responsible to provide security for these 20 million people? The entire nation has only 450,000. That 450,000 alone is not even enough to police 20 million. These men are human. They can only do to the extent to which their body can react. We need to start looking in that direction to recruit more people, and we need to look in that direction to train them better. We need to encourage people to go and report crime. We need police to come clean when they are short of anything. We never can tell how we can help them. We cannot just relax and say that, okay, It is when the crime has happened that we're now chasing them. How about preventing it entirely in the first instance? So those are my immediate thoughts about it. One cannot knock the police out because they can only do to the extent of which they have the capacity in terms of men, availability of men, equipment, training, and all those and other things that surrounds their ability to perform.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that incisive breakdown of the headline we just picked up from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. The police declare war against kidnappers and others in Lagos. They simply saying that, look, Lagos will not be a safe haven. You better just move far away from Lagos, because Lagos hospitality and investments is the destination point for people when they come into Lagos. So there's need to provide adequate security. So let's begin to talk money matters. Let's move away now from that. Oh, Devoe, you want to chip in something weighing on that kidnapping story? That'll be done. Okay. So let's pick up this next story now from the Daily Post newspaper this morning. And this one is, related to money. No plans to denominate the Naira. That's what the CBN clarification is saying from the Daily Post this time around. How that audio and all of those news they have described now as fake got out of the way to begin to put tension in the mind of people is something that is quite scary, and we need to the authorities to address that. But what does this say really? Should Nigerians go to sleep now that the CBN has issued a statement?
Well, I mean, the CBN is judged in terms of monetary policy. And if they make a statement, it's fine. They're the custodians guiding it to protect it, to ensure that it maximizes its value and it's also available. Now, yes, there have been rumors that's moved around, especially in these days of fake news, that the Naira will be devalued. I guess it's not without face because of how the Naira, the currency, has been acting in the market in terms of its depreciation quickly within a month or two. And it's easy to believe that, oh, one day, because now, if you remember those days, if you're trying to exchange money, especially in dollars, you would normally add 2 zeros. And once you just put 2 zeros behind it, you have the dollar value. Now you're literally adding 3 zeros because at the exchange parallel market, though INE is around 700, 800, the parallel market is pushing above 1,000. $10 is actually, $100 is actually 100,000. So they've come out directly to say that there is a process to factors that take place on if they want to reform, that yes, reforms will be made for the Naira to ensure that it maintains its best value, but the plan for redenomination is not happening. That's the unscrupulous people actually picked text from an old CBN's plans and made it look like it was recent. And I'm happy they've come out straight on that. They've already, prior to this time, the finance minister has been speaking on the plans to actually shore up the value of the Naira as they address the FX liquidity supply gap with line of sight to about 10 billion between LNG securitization of their dividends, as well as $3 billion loan coming through NNPC. So what that should do is enable them to take care of that backload, as well as also create some availability in the markets, which should douse some of this pressure that has been on the Naira.
Devoe, before we let this Naira dollar matter go to sleep a bit at this moment, looking at even the examples from countries where that redenomination was done, I was speaking with a guest earlier on Business Express, and he said Ghana was a very good example, and it wasn't a good route to you. They shouldn't have even ventured there in the first place. So it doesn't look like a good place to go to.
Well, it depends on the many factors to it. The objective of redenomination is to give, it's more of optics, okay? In that instance, let's even say the value depreciates even more. At some point, to check inflation, because it's used to check inflation, you take away some decimals just to be able to give it some level of balance. However, each economy would have to look at what works best for itself. And it's not so much about the currency. I will be more concerned about Nigeria not creating a productive base. You know, we've always said from consumption to production. As long as we keep consuming, as long as our imports always outweigh our exports, we'll always battle with this. But when we can share it up, you see, this is how you correct that measure. When you can share it up with production, earnings from the country, both from services, goods, and products, then you begin to see where um, your currency has a pride of place, and you'll be more competitive in the global markets.
So luckily, the next one will be for you from the Punch newspaper, and this story simply says Lagos State government pledges to improve pensioners' welfare. These are senior citizens putting productive years, 35 years, sometimes more. Now, it simply means what they retire with, that's what they get at the point in time. It's static for them. That's what they expect as stipend, and they live through that. So and all of these factors have not been equal. In economics, they say all things being equal, but then things have changed from where they used to be in service and they were getting that kind of amount. So is this the right way to go? Would that have an effect if the government goes ahead with this?
I think that the protest that the pensioners had yesterday was in respect of the non-implementation of the increments that they should have got over the years. I think that there's a constitutional provision that pension should be increased every 5 years or whenever salaries of workers are increased, which is the demand of the pensioners. But let's step back a little bit. Let's look at it this way. We say that people in civil service are corrupt, that they are this, they are that, they are inefficient, they don't come to work, they do other side gigs and all that. These are the kind of things that the current ones see that makes them do all those things we complain about. Because they see that, okay, so when I retire, I'm going to suffer this. Why don't I take as much as I can from the system while I'm there now so that I won't need this, right? Having said that, and that is not to castigate Lagos, that's just a general statement, right? Now, I know that at least since 2001, Lagos State has implemented some form of human resource solution. They speak about the Oracle solution that was implemented for Lagos State, which has the details of all their employees and their retirement dates and everything that is due to them. So in terms of things like, say, they want to do verification, this and that, I don't think it's necessary to drag these people. It just takes one line of instruction in the system to update what is due to these people. We cannot, for the life of me, make our senior citizens go through this kind of ordeal all the time. Granted that at some point, you see the children of this senior citizen say, Daddy, Mommy, don't worry about this thing. We'll take care of you. But that is not the point. It is their right to have this thing, and we should make it available to them at the time they need it. These kind of things are causes embarrassment to the government, the people, the pensioners themselves, and everybody involved. I think that we should start looking at ways to make these things smarter. One of those ways is the Federal Pension Act that says that hand over pension into private sector like we've had since 2005. And then as a pensioner, you work in there. When you retire, you get a certain amount. And subsequently, you get a certain amount on a monthly basis or as you want. I think governments also should look in that direction and hand over pension to such places as we have in the private sector today. And this kind of things, so that their pension, their contributory pension should just go there, so that when they retire, they know that it's off their hands and the person can take care of himself with the with that arrangement. So in all of this, we would just like to appeal to government and everybody involved. Please let us have a rethink about how we treat our senior citizens. We are young people today. We are active today. We're going to end up senior citizens as well. Do we want to suffer what we are making these people go through now? I know that the answer is no. So we should do the right things with these people.
Wow, look, honestly, that's quite a scary submission you made finally right now. So we must, because if where we would sit where when we are all depend on where we're standing, when we were young, is anything to go by, your submission, honestly, it means we need to begin to treat these pensioners very well. Let's move on now to the listener to let them know that we can also get in messages now to begin to read your messages reacting to the headlines we're serving you this time on Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. Send them over to 0809-444-0981. You can also see us on YouTube. We're streaming live there. youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos. You can find us there also. Leave your comments there. We'll be glad to get them in. I still got Lakunle, Yusuf here, and Devoe. Okorie. Devoe, next to you, let's talk about women issues now. Government, the United Nations, that's the UN, to support women entrepreneur. That's what the Punch is leading with from this angle here. And this also tells us that the women, if really we as a country been able to do the right thing, should we be talking about this now, or it should just be a way of life? That irrespective of gender, you should be able to get support and assistance.
I'm going to say this. I started with Okorie, there's a government movement. It's a very critical aspect of governance and actually life. As the UN and what they call them, sustainable points, governing points, SDGs, that when you empower women, you transform the economy ×4. That's come out of rigorous surveys, research to see that actually women are integral parts of growing your economy, not just because of their motherhood nature, and the ability to multitask, but they have this uncanny attribute of not only managing systems, but also distributing equity and wealth. That just comes with being female. That has to be given to them. So any country that is not deliberately trying to empower its women is actually losing. And on that basis, the United Nations Women had partnered with the Lagos state government, I think in 2002. And in this instance, there was a session whereby the governor, someone who was discussing, that's the Lagos State's Public Procurement Agency, that they would partner with the UN Women's Agency to equip more women with knowledge and skills to navigate the procurement landscape successfully with training programs, access to funds, etc. Now, procurement, government procurement is a behemoth on its own, and it's usually dogged by a lot of politics for those who know the world of dog-eat-dog world of government contracts, right? At the federal level and at the state level. And most times women are not able to navigate this because of how, the hostility involved. Now, this is a deliberate act by the Lagos state government to say that, no, we will empower women to partake in this process. And when he mentioned access to funding, he said through the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, which was a program set up by, an agency set up by the Lagos state government to actually empower MSMEs, right? Now, this recognition is not just an ethical choice the government is speaking, but it holds, it's embedded within the vision of Lagos State to become an economy to be reckoned with. As you know, Lagos State wants to be one of the top 5 economies in Africa in about 10 years. Now, the Director General of the Lagos State Agency was saying that this forum was the climax of that relationship. Now, does your government love women? Every government, it's not just remember last year, what happened? Was it last year or 2 years ago? The National Assembly, literally, in terms of constitutional reform, rejected about 5 gender-based bills. That shows you an indicator of the character of our nation towards women, okay? Now, that's at federal level, but Lagos State is setting an example here by showing that they will do what it takes to be able to empower women deliberately. And I'd like to commend them for that, because it just simply means that it's going to get better for the people of Lagos as more women get empowered, not only on government contracts, but basically access to funds through the Lagos State Fund employment trust fund agents.
All right, so we would get to begin to read messages shortly, but then make sure you also be part of it by sending it over to 0809-444-0981. That's reacting to the headlines we're serving you on Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. So Lakunle, just help us go through this paper then before we get into the story, the messages on our WhatsApp platform. Now, this is from the Vanguard. It says, electricity operators seek cost-reflective tariff as subsidies hit 3.34 trillion naira. This is where we are. Subsidy from one area talking about removing it, so we still have it in other areas. How can we get to this point where what I use is what I pay for, knowing that about 10 million people are unmetered as we speak?
At least this is one subsidy that all of us seemingly think that it's okay to stay. Nobody has agitated for it to be removed like we did for the fuel and the subsidy on the naira. Now, the question we need to ask ourselves is, what do we really want? In my opinion, I think that for much of this, the government has done its possible best to set the discourse on a good path and a profitable path from the beginning. After the privatization, they are done at least 2 interventions that I know. They are done 1 grant that I know, and that is aside the ascension to their multi-year tariff order. That means that they can, I think every 6 months or thereabout, they can review the prices and use the economic indices at the time to suggest. And this is why the government is saying, look, keep it simple, even when you do. And this is where I think the subsidy thing comes in. Now, the issue here is the discourse say that they give power, and everybody, a lot of people use power for free today. So how do you curb that? Metering. Government has given you access to meter. I know that government licensed 11 companies to manufacture or to assemble meters in Nigeria. How far have those ones gone? Where are we with them? The meters they have done, where are they? How much does these meters cost? I know that, for example, Ikeja Disco at some point gave meters for free and said, look, I'll put the meters and I'll take the money from you in bits and pieces. I know some people paid premium to have meters. So it's a multi-headed problem that we don't even know where to even start from. So if government takes out a subsidy, it automatically means we're going to pay more for electricity. One of the speakers at the event says that it is only Abuja, Eko, and Ikeja that are profitable. Why? Is it that because those are the ones who have deployed the most meters? Is it because that they are the ones who are where electricity is most demanded? So we need to look at all of these things and decide what we want. So if we privatize in its entirety, can these people be empowered enough to say, so if you don't have meter, there is no power from me to you? Can we look at other ways to generate power or localize it? I know that it's now been decentralized, no longer an exclusive listing. What are the governments of our states doing towards generating more power and selling to the discos in their areas, so that this idea that we're not generating enough, we're not distributing enough, so we're not getting enough is out of the matter, and then we know that it is the appropriate pricing. Where much of this money goes to is for infrastructure development. We're talking about our inadequate distribution capacity. Today, we generate about 10,000 megawatts, but our distribution can only do a maximum of 7,000. So what happens to the remaining 3,000? That means that our GenCo are being forced to underperform. The distribution cannot carry more than what we need, and so on and so on. So all of these things, we need to put them into perspective. It's not just about the money that they want to generate, but the money to make things work the way it should be. We know that once power is available, we probably would have solved about 40 to 50% of our problems as a people.
Okay, so let's get into the messages now. Thank you so much, Lakunle, for the breakdown. Let's get in Yemi from Marina reacting to a headline. He says, no plans to denominate the Naira now. When there is a plan to do so, will they inform us? Furthermore, with the antecedents of the CBN, especially under the just gone past CBN Emefiele, why should we believe anything that comes from them again? Once beaten, 4 times shy, it seems Yemi from Marina is saying. Now, Ajayi would come in here with this one. President Tinubu will do well to immediately put in motion the process to establish state police that's reacting to security now on that from that issue of the Lagos state saying they want to flush out kidnappers. It has become obvious that the Nigerian police cannot adequately secure the length and breadth of the country, hence the continuous attacks of criminality by bandits and terrorists. Ajayi Olonilua from Magodo GRA. And I find this one in here, but it's not connected, Idima Puza, to what we're talking about. So let's get on to Peter from Festac. Peter would say, okay, that's it, done. Achukwu Emeka, Lakunle, the meters are locked up in their NEPA's strong rooms. That's what they use here, pretending the meters are not available from Emeka. So he didn't see any meter that they've been distributing. Like you said, they distribute somewhere. But then Oluwaseyi comes in with a message here telling us, women don't need to be asking men for handouts. They have the numbers, so they should force their way politically to get what they want, i.e., for example, Kogi is getting one resilient woman going to the Senate now after fighting it out. Like men aren't going to just hand anything to them on the platter. Men have never done that, not even in the UK or in the US, Sheyi. So, Devo, close this conversation up with this final story. Yeah, if you can, in a minute, let's see. So take us through this one. Federal workers' wage in the 2.1 trillion naira supplementary budget. That's according to the nation.
Okay, well, I guess it's good news for federal workers, even though they're not more than 1 million of them. So the 1 million minus 200 million leaves 290 million individuals who are still looking at the federal government for some succor, for some opportunity to breathe. But basically here, the wage award was the 35,000 promised by the federal government in negotiation with the trade unions as cost of living support or palliative temporary relief in this time and season, with the fuel subsidy removal and effects of harmonization, which has brought immense hardship, and it must be said, immense hardship on many Nigerians. Though a good step, this is one step out of many. But for every promise that is made, it must be backed up by law and budget. So recently, the Minister of Budget and Planning did read out the 2.1 trillion naira supplementary budget that the president has passed to the National Assembly to actually address some of these initial issues in government. The 35,000 on federal workers who are on IPIS will last for 6 months. It's supposed to have started September, so they've not been paid yet. So now the federal government is owing them. I'm sure it will come. Which month are we in?
This is November.
They're just passing the supplementary budget now, so it means sometime in November they will be paid 3 months arrears for the wage award. So for those of you who remain among the non-civil servants, I think we also need to be standing.
I.e., Lakunle.
Yes, all of us. We need to be looking at the federal government to see where our own award lies.
Okay. So then I can go to heaven for that one to get it. But let's get to the final message in as we leave this morning. Anthony E. Francis, that's Tony, that says the truth remains that discos are not interested in having consumers metered so they can continue to dole out crazy estimated billing with light supplied or not. They create unnecessary bureaucracies and hike the cost. That's what Tony has to say. And it's more like, Lakunle, take it to them. Make sure they hear this. Well, it's a wrap, guys. I want to say thank you so much to you guys for being part of the show this morning. Lakunle, Yusuf, for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to say thank you to Devoe, Okorie, for your time also. And that's how we wrap it up this morning on Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa. Join me in 15 minutes when Tega Onojaife will be here for the locker room. Don't miss out.